We are here for part 2 of our motivation chapter in our human relations course. And here we're going to take a look at some of our more foundational motivational theories and think about how they might apply to you. First, like always, we start by looking at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This one is one of the first, if not the first, in 1943 originated theory by Abraham Maslow. And he came up with what came to be known as the theory of human motivation. So at that point, maybe there was only one theory, right? Today we have maybe hundreds of theories, a lot of different theories of motivation. Certainly, this chapter does not cover all of them. So you might be seeing the illustration or the image on this slide, which is again a pyramid, and it's divided into 5 zones or 5 phases or levels, whatever you would like to call them. And we start at the bottom. And so the idea here is each of the 5 represent a different need, represents a different human need. And we fulfill these needs in order from bottom to top. And the needs are what drives the behavior. So the needs are what is motivating the human, the person, to take certain actions. And if we start at the bottom with the physiological needs, they include things such as air, water, food, the things we need for survival, including clothing and sleep and shelter. And then in our next level, once we have satisfied the physiological needs, we move on to safety needs. And here's it's things that like feeling personally safe and secure, having employment, having resources, our health and our property. And once we feel that those needs have been satisfied, we move on to the third need, which is love and belonging. So, as humans, we are social beings and we need to have friends and family and people we care about who care about us around us. We need that sense of connection. So, this includes platonic relationships, romantic relationships, professional relationships, family, etc. And once that third need is satisfied, now we can move on to things like esteem needs. We want to feel respected. We want people to acknowledge us, to see us. So, with that, we need things such as status. And that gives us freedom and strength. So, being recognized, feeling good about ourselves because we are adding value, our esteem needs become fulfilled. And then lastly, we move on to what is called self-actualization. And this is desiring to become the most that we can be, becoming the best version, the best person that we have the resources to become our own human body, heart, and mind, and what we can do with that. And so here we look at things such as training and development and growth. And that would fall into that self-actualization. So a lot of the time, companies spend a majority of their rewards sort of down here in this bottom couple of levels because they provide pay, which buys things like food and shelter. And absolutely, we need that. But that is not what is driving us as humans. Like the self-actualization needs and the esteem needs. So providing things like recognitions and rewards and training and opportunities, training and development opportunities will be much more motivating for employees. Frederick Herzberg came up with the 2-factor theory or the motivation hygiene factor theory in 1959 in the book The Motivation to Work. And so what Frederick Herzberg did is he went out and asked employees what did they find satisfying and what did they find dissatisfying at work. And so he got all of these answers that he collated and grouped together. And at the end of that exercise, that study, he found that there were 2 major groups. There was the motivation factors as well as the hygiene factors, and they are different type of motivational factors. And so the finding was that the hygiene factors, and we're going to give some examples on the next slide, the hygiene factors are what's expected. This is baseline. We need these to exist in our work environment, and as such, they are not motivational. They're just making us not dissatisfied. And they are things such as policy within the organization, appropriate working conditions, salary. These are things that we expect from our company, and they're not going to make us go over and beyond. Then we have the motivation factors that actually will make us work harder. And these are things such as making or giving us a sense of having responsibility, giving us the opportunity to advance in the organization. That is what is exciting for people. And these are motivational factors that make us work harder. So the top 6 motivation and hygiene factors that were found are listed on this slide. And so on our motivation side of things, we have things such as achievement, recognition, the work itself, right? If you enjoy the work that you do, having responsibility, opportunities for advancement in your career, right? So moving from one level to the next, and then having personal and professional growth. Those are things that motivate us to go over and beyond. And then our 6 hygiene factors include company policies, making sure that there is formal structures, right? And policies and processes, so we have consistencies, supervision by the organization. They have somebody in a supervisory position. The relationship that we have with this person, their working conditions. Is it cold? Is it warm? Is it bright? Do you have the resources that you need? The compensation that you get, and it's salary plus benefits plus other things. And we'll talk about that in our 3rd and final video of this chapter. And then also the relationship with our peers. These need to exist for us to not be dissatisfied at work. So these are baseline, they must exist, and then these need to exist on top of the hygiene factors. So this plus that should result in higher levels of motivation. Then we come to Douglas McGregor, and this is the theory X, theory Y, that came out in the 1960s book, The Human Side of Enterprise. And this was a book that focused on the way managers approach or manage their employees. So the other motivational theories sits with the employee, right? The way the employee feels, their needs, etc. This theory flips it and says the manager has a certain perspective of employees, which influence how they manage employees, and that will in turn either demotivate or motivate the employees. So this gives us an excellent starting point to understand how a person's management style impact the retention of employees. And so the theory X manager, that is the manager who is negative. He has a very negative approach of employee motivation, and they tend to be more authoritarian and dictatorial. And we'll give some examples on the next slide. Then we have the theory Y managers, and this is the manager who keeps a positive viewpoint and a positive approach of employee motivation. And they believe that people actually want to do good things and get up every morning and want to take on the world and do positive. And so these two belief systems have a large variance, and people who manage under the X theory would be expected to lose their employees. People will leave if you are a theory X manager. So here we see some examples of the X and Y. And if we start with the X up here, we see things such this person, this manager, believes that the average person dislikes work, they will avoid work. They believe most people need to be threatened with punishment to be able to work or to do work. They need to be directed, and they want to avoid responsibility. That's your X manager. Then you have the Y manager, and the Y manager, as we said on the other slide, is the complete opposite. They believe in positivities. Most people want to try to do a good job at work. They are able to apply self-control and self-direction in pursuit of company objectives. They are committed to what we need to do. And we also know that they are expecting certain rewards upon that commitment of those objectives or the achievement of those objectives. People want to take responsibility. They accept it and they welcome it. And they are also happy to problem solve, to take on challenges, use their imagination and their ingenuity to help move projects, tasks, and the organization forward. Then we have the carrot and the stick approach. And I think we are all familiar with this. And if we have taken any psychology classes, we certainly have seen this before when we talk about reinforcement. So the stick approach, this is the poking and the prodding we do to get our employees to do something, right? So we are threatening them, we are telling them, if you don't do this, you're not gonna get that. We need to cut time, we need to cut if you don't finish the project, etc. Certainly, this does very little to motivate us in the longer term. And for sure, we can get any person to do anything for some period of time with threats, etc. But the problem is that this constant prodding and threatening do not motivate us. We do it in the moment because of the threat that's there, or the punishment that's there. But once that disappears, we are no longer going to be wanting to do that thing, right? So it's a very short-term, ineffective way. Then we have the carrot approach, which is to offer some reward or incentive. And this works maybe a little bit better. And this incentive will occur if these expectations are met. So we need to know what those expectations are. And the expectations also need to be attainable, right? So the manager needs to let us know what we need to do and what rewards, what carrots are given upon completion of that. Much more positive approach. Still not effective if that expectation is just too off. If we don't think that the goal is achievable, we are not going to be motivated to try. If you just feel frustrated thinking about achieving that goal, even though you get a reward at the end, you're not going to try, right? So think about that. Has this ever happened to you? So if organizations use this as the only motivational technique, we are probably not going to be in a great place. We can't just use the stick, we cannot just use the carrot, but we also need to do things such offering training, development, growth opportunities, recognitions, etc. So here are some examples of the stick and the carrot. The stick would say, if you don't increase your sales by 10%, you will be fired. Or if safety doesn't improve, everyone will have to retake this series of safety classes, right? It might work in that moment, but then that motivation will disappear. For the carrot approach, things like if you increase your sales by 10%, you get a bonus. Or if safety improves, everyone receives a bonus of $100. Again, works a little bit, but stick and carrot approaches are not sufficient. So why do we spend time talking about motivation in a human relations course? Well, clearly, we want to make sure that we are happy at work. The more motivated we are, the happier we are, the more likely we are to do better at work. Our managers really want to hire and promote people who are excited about coming to work and doing a great job. So if you come to work, you're happy and you show that motivation, that is a positive thing for you. We also have better human relation skills when we are happier because we are just more content with life. We have nothing to prove. We show up in a good mood and in a good attitude, and that helps us have better relationships with those around us. So, spending some time thinking about what is really motivational for you and how you can apply that at work is worthwhile. So, for an exercise here, think of the things that you think will motivate you in your career. What are the things that drive you? Name at least 5 of those things, right? 5 things that you think will motivate you. And again, with my new computer setup, my pen works more slowly, so the drawings are even less pretty. And after you have identified those 5 things, then you can take a look and plot them, maybe both on the Maslow hierarchy and on the Herzberg two-factor theory, and see where your 5 factors would fall. So, in summary, many motivation theories attempt to explain people's motivation or lack thereof. We have Maslow, Herzberg, McGregor, and the carrot and stick approach. So Maslow is a theory of motivation in terms of need that are going from the lowest level need up to the highest level need. And our needs are physiological, safety, social, esteem, and self-actualizations. Like we said, a lot of companies only focus on the bottom part of the pyramid and do not make it up to the top, where we can motivate employees with things like helping them self-actualize. Frederick Herzberg developed motivational theories based on motivation and hygiene factors. The hygiene factors are expected at work, and they will demotivate people if they are not existent, but they do not motivate us if they are present. They just make us not dissatisfied. So if you try to motivate people only on those hygiene factors like salary and policies, you will most likely experience higher levels of turnover. Motivation on both of Herzberg's factors is a better key to a good retention plan for your employees. McGregor's theory on motivation looked at managers' attitudes towards employees, not the employees themselves. And here we see theory X managers having a more negative view of employees. They don't believe employees want to do a good job, while theory Y managers are more positive and they do believe that employees want to take responsibility and do a good job. So providing training to managers so that they are more theory Y than X is a good key retention strategy. Carrot and stick approach means that we get someone to do something by prodding or offering some incentive. This implies that there are only 2 methods to motivate, which we know is not true. So the implication from carrot and stick in our retention plan is that we must utilize a variety of methods to retain employees. So these are some of the more foundational theoretical approaches to motivation and how we can use them today to retain our employees, to keep them happy so that we can do a better job. So with that, we are going to wrap this video. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.